running stretch play to Keys, who bounces to the outside, gets to the 5, get a first down to the 2. Did he get in? Yes, touchdown, Aledo Bearcats.
And we welcome you to the Aledo Coaches podcast show here on 92.1 Hank FM. A very special edition for this week's episode. A couple big week coming up, too, for the Bearcats as they begin pursuit of their 12th state championship Thursday night at Tim Buchanan Stadium against the Shoemaker Wolves out of Killeen. 6:30 is the pregame show on Hank FM. 7 o'clock is the kickoff. But this is a special 3-segment podcast this week. We're going to have, obviously, Coach Robby Jones with us. Then we're going to be joined by the present and the future of the quarterback situation here for the Bearcats. That's going to be Hauss, Hejny, and then Gavin Beard. And then in our third segment, we're going to celebrate the cross-country teams who had a dynamic performance down at Round Rock at Old Settlers Park as the girls were the state runners-up and the boys finished 10th, celebrating their great season. We're going to have head coach Mike Pinkerton on along with several of the runners talking about what this season was like for them, and we'll go through so many different things as they're going through. Okay, so let's just start talking about for your game as you all finished up the regular season at 10-0 with a 59-13 victory over the Brewer Bears. And I think if you had asked if a script could have gone any better without any Hauss Hejny or without Ray Guillory, your two dynamic offensive players, I think you couldn't have asked for a better way for it to go.
No, we would have liked to have had a lot better start. You know, we didn't have a very good start in the first half, but then we came back. We regrouped at halftime. Came out with a little bit more energy. We really looked kind of rusty. I said it, after the game, I think, we looked like we were slow. Mm-hmm. We looked slow. We weren't playing fast. We weren't playing, the way we're supposed to play. And we went in, regrouped. The guys realized, hey, we got to refocus here. And then we came out with a lot better the second half.
Yeah, I was going to say that the way, even though you guys scored on your first possession of the game because you had a short field to work with, 39 yards, I think it was. But I think from that point all the way through to the end of the first half was the sluggishness that you talked about there, just not executing the way you wanted to. But then, whatever the inspirational talk was at halftime, the third quarter, you guys were perfect. And then, of course, you all scored all 5 times you touched the football in the second half, minus the kneel downs at the end and running out the last couple of minutes.
Right, and that's what we want to do every game. We don't want to send the punt team out there. I hate having to call for the punt team. We want to go out and we want to put points on the board every time we have the football.
So let's just talk about the fact that you knew that you weren't going to have Hauss this week, but you have to get Gavin Beard ready. And the one thing that Gavin did show you throughout the course of this season is the fact that he could handle the varsity stage because you put him in enough games, put him in the opener against Parish Episcopal, but then you kind of weaved his way through the season, giving him snaps here, half here, quarter here, that sort of thing. But then getting ready for his start, what was important for you to get him ready for this?
What you talked about, we've been working him in a little bit, here and there throughout the year, especially, in the first half, because you get those mop-up snaps and they're not as meaningful as they are in the first half. So we were trying to do that early because we wanted to make sure that if he ever had to start for us, he had some, big-time game type experience so he can go in there and maybe be a little bit more relaxed.
The speed of it, because the fact that he had seen it so many times throughout the course of the season, seemed like that really wasn't an issue for him because of so much of what he had gone through.
No, and Gavin's a good quarterback. Gavin would be starting for a lot of people. And we're going to be very fortunate to have him for the next 2 years. So, the speed of the game was not, too big for him. He came in and did a great job for us.
Minus a couple of verticals here and there, it looked like it was pretty much of a safe approach with the passing game with him. Some swing outs, dumps over the middle, some screens, tunnel screens to Trace Clarkson. What was kind of the approach of how you wanted to use him in the passing game for this one?
He took what they were giving us. They were giving us the underneath stuff. They had a deep safety in the middle of the field most of the game, so they were trying to take away the deep balls. And so he just took what was available for us and did a good job managing the game.
Defensively, you all really shut them down. They had the one big vertical there at the end when they scored their second touchdown, but pretty much they were shut down. I would imagine, minus not getting a turnover, but you had to like the way your defense was just limiting them for anything they attempted to do.
Yeah, defense did a really good job. Our secondary was playing well from the get-go. It took a little bit of time for our defensive line to get back up to speed. That was part of what I was talking about, not playing fast.
Right.
It looked like early, the quarterback had a couple of scrambles. And he was getting big yards on plays where normally, if we're playing at the speed we normally play, those weren't happening.
Yeah, I was going to say, and those were really like their two biggest running plays of the night was when Clark was rolling the pocket to his right, and there wasn't anything there, and he was getting chased. Then he had to reverse his field, and then just that turned into a broken play.
Right, yeah, and that's what it was. It was him scrambling around, making a play, and we had some bad angles, didn't do things the way we should be doing them, and it turned into first downs for them and then extended drives, which kept the ball away from our offense.
Now, you've had 2 years with this bye on the 10th week of the season because you play in week 11, but what did you take away from these two buys and how late they were in the season and how you get your team ready for a game the following week when you know that there's more to play? What did you think of it?
Right. I don't like to buy that late. The good thing about it, it came at a time where we needed to rest some people. So we got some people some rest, going into the playoffs. We showed up a little bit rusty, the first half of last week's game, but we've got that out of the way. I thought our practice this week was a lot better than what we had last week. I think the kids see the urgency. When we get to the playoffs, they kind of crank it up a little bit, and they did that this week.
Is that just an instinctive thing? Do they have to be told? I mean, of course, we've seen this for so many years here with this program, but what's kind of like the approach from the coaching staff when the calendar flips to the postseason?
Yeah, I think the kids just realize it. The kids know that, hey, this is for real now. It's not a district game. It's not a preseason game. It's do or die, and they come in and they have a little bit better approach. And every opponent, you got to respect every opponent. And this week's opponent's no different. Even though they're a fourth-place team, they were picked to possibly win the district. They were mentioned as possibly, vying for the district championship. And Coach Foreman, when I talked to him last week, he was telling me that, when they lost those 3 games, they had some of their key players were out.
Right.
And now they're healthy, and he's saying they're playing their best football that they've ever played. And it's indicated in the fact that the last 2 weeks, they have set school records in points scored.
Yeah, 75-7 in their finale against Granbury last week. That was played on Thursday night, I think it was. And so, but for the status, you talked about injuries. Okay, so let's talk about the status of a couple of your guys this week. Again, you didn't have Hauss, Hejny. You didn't have Ray Guillory last week against Brewer. What's each of their status for this coming week against Shoemaker?
Right now, it looks like Hauss is good to go. Hauss is good. He practiced today, looked good, felt good. Ray, we didn't get to see Ray today, so there's a big question mark with Ray. It looks like probably not going to play, but we'll see.
If that's the case where you don't have Ray for Thursday night, would it be similar to what we saw against Brewer, where a combination of Hawk Daniels, Caden Wingfield, and obviously Hauss coming back in changes the running dynamic too? Would it be something along those lines?
Yeah, it'd be real similar. Hawk's getting the first running back reps. Then you have Wingfield, and then you always have Devon Keys as a possibility.
Right.
And we talked about it when we were game planning this week that, hey, listen, if we need it, Devon can get 10, 12 carries if need be.
And as far as just getting back to Caden Wingfield for a second, was this a young man that you felt like, because the idea was that he was going to be on JV and then you all had to pull him up to the varsity, but because of what you've seen out of him, is he a guy that you feel like you can give him 7 to 10 carries in any game moving forward and not blink, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Right, yeah, we can put him in there at any time. And then, you also saw R.J. Blake, who was injured most of the year.
Right.
And R.J. got in there and had some pretty good carries. So, I'm not afraid to put R.J. in the game, because he's going to go run the ball hard and go pick up some yards for us.
Okay, so everybody on offense seems to be in that position where they seem to be, well, obviously we'll find out about Ray Guillory later this week. But defensively, knock on wood, everybody's back. Everybody's good, minus Cooper Seifert, who's still out for a few weeks. But of course, you got Carson Dempsey back. But defensively, the way this group has held up and the way that it's played, what's kind of been the common denominator with this defensive unit in your mind?
Well, our consistency with the defense, that's always been the case with our defense. The guys that we have over there on defense, they're very reliable guys. You can count on them to show up every day and do what they're expected to do and go out and make plays, and that's what they've been doing this year.
The front, we've talked about it so many times where you've rotated about 5 defensive tackles through. Maybe it's even expanded beyond that, but what have you seen from all these younger guys that have gotten so much burn? McIntyre, tailing that sort of thing.
They've grown up over the years, so they're not the young guys that were inexperienced. They're experienced guys now, and they've been through big football games. So going into the playoffs, they know what to expect, and they've been just real, like I said a minute ago, real consistent. We've got a lot of guys that we've been rotating in there, and everybody stepping up and making plays.
And that's going to be the key here as we look ahead to the Shoemaker Wolves. They're 7-3 under head coach Toby Foreman. Now, Aledo won this game last year 37-0. I think we were more surprised by how that game unfolded. This is a very explosive offense in District 4 5A. They led the district in average yards per game at 514. They also led it in rushing yardage at 302 on the ground. And that's why I brought this up with them, because of what your defensive front against an explosive and a very physical running attack that the Wolves bring. What's your thinking about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's always been a key for our defense, is being able to stop people's run game. And that's going to be, big time this week. They run a lot of stretch plays, quarterback down that we run. Then they also run a lot of counters, and then they, mix in some play action with it. A lot of their big runs have come with quarterback scrambles, and they play two different quarterbacks. They've got a senior that started for them last year, that played against us last year, but they really kind of, and I'm at a loss for the name, number 8, the sophomore quarterback has really come in and played more than the senior has here recently.
Yeah, and I think that name is Tyreek Wade, is the young man. And in fact, in talking to the Shoemaker coaches today, they were kind of, Jerome Malachi is the senior, by the way. They were talking about that they weren't sure if Malachi would be available for Thursday. I think they were going to have to probably make a decision later on in the week to see this. But I guess, as you're getting ready to see, and if Wade, the sophomore, does get the start, or even if you see them both, how are they similar? How are they different?
There's not a whole lot of difference between the two, to be honest with you. It just basically, you got to find the number to know which one's in there. And they've actually scored more points than they've ever scored the last 2 weeks with the sophomore running the show.
Yeah, 75 points last week against Granbury. And, of course, with this team, as you were talking a few moments ago and talking to Coach Foreman, that he's getting his guys back, you looked at them on film last year, and then you look at them on film this year. What changed in terms of your evaluation of them?
They look faster this year. That was the first thing that I noticed, was they looked like they were a faster football team. They're real similar to what they were last year. Of course, they got 7 guys back on offense, so the offense looks almost the same, but defensively and offensively, they look a lot faster.
Okay, so on the flip side, as good as they are on offense, they're also the top defensive team in District 4 5A, allowing just 241 yards a game. Your thoughts about your offense going against what that unit presents?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have some pretty good matchups, offensive line-wise, secondary-wise with our receivers. It's going to be tough. But I think we can match up pretty well with them.
Okay, and then, of course, with what you want to do, depending on how Hauss's hamstring is in terms of how you want to use him, is this a case where if he's good to go and he tests things out, even in pregame warmups, how much would you want to try and use him in the running game? Or is that just going to be as the game goes on?
That's going to be as the game goes on. If we can get an early lead, of course, we'll hold off on running Hauss, pretty much, it'll have to be a scramble situation. But if we're in a tight game and he's feeling good, then we'll use him a little bit in the running game.
All right, and so of course with your ball club, and all these things are, there's so many expectations on this year after year. The scrutiny now, because everyone kind of assumes you're going to win this game, and that's probably unfair to you, because that's also kind of unfair to Shoemaker, which they grind just like everybody, like every other program across the state of Texas. So what's been kind of your message to your team, even though it's enjoyed so much success over the years?
I've told them, look, you can't take anybody, lightly. You got to go in with this. This is a really good football team, and we've been, harping on that. I even told them last week, hey, look, when Shoemaker comes in here next week, they're not just some, easy victory for us. This is going to be a difficult football game. It was only 37-0 last year. So, we're expecting a similar situation this year where they're going to give us some problems on both sides of the ball, and hopefully we can come out on top.
And then traditionally, I know you talked about maybe playing this game on Friday, but you all have played this by-district playoff game on Thursdays. And so what is the advantage and disadvantage of playing it on a Thursday?
Normally when you do that on a Thursday, you're thinking that you're going to get a little bit weaker opponent. That's not the case this year. This is why I considered playing this one on Friday. But, I kind of went with our traditional type deal. I'm a traditionalist. I like doing things the way we've always done them. And, we've been putting this game on Thursday. And what it will do is it'll give our kids another day's rest for the second round.
And of course, you knew that you were going to be playing them 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So I would suspect that as you were preparing for Brewer, you also could do some things on the side getting ready for Shoemaker in the week leading up to Brewer and even in your bye week.
Yeah, we were looking at them a little bit. We went ahead and traded video with Coach Foreman last week, and we started seeing, what they were doing defensively, what they were doing offensively. And we might have thrown a few Shoemaker plays, in the script when we were working against Brewer. And then, they run two different fronts defensively. They run a 3-4, and then they also run a 4-2. Well, we were working a 4-2 against Brewer last week. So, the 4-2 stuff was already in place for last week. Now, this week we're focusing on making sure we can block a 3-2.
Okay, so one quick question, too, about when we get to this time of year and coaches exchanging film. Is it pretty much changed over time rather than just physically handing film that you can just email film now?
Yeah, all you got to do is click a couple of buttons on Huddle. And you get basically all 10 of their football games are sent to us, and we send all 10 of ours to them.
Is it start to finish, or is there bits and pieces of it?
No, it's the whole video.
Okay, so that's good to know. So you guys can break down everything, and so
yeah, and that's one of the reasons why nowadays, used to you would send a middle school staff to go scout the game. You don't have to do that anymore. We had 3 of our middle school coaches that went to their last 2 games, but you don't have to do that anymore because you're going to get the game film and you're going to get everything.
Do you all actually have what is considered a quality control coach, the guys who cut the films down on other guys? NFL and college teams have it, but at the high school level, do you all actually have that? Or if you don't, how do you guys kind of break it down by player, or how does that go about?
It's basically by the staff. The offensive staff, along with some of our middle school coaches, will get together and they'll divide it up. Hey, I'm going to work on this game. You work on this game. You do the formations. I'll do the plays. Then somebody will do the defensive front. Somebody will do the secondary coverage. And then the defense will do something similar. The defense will be coming in, labeling their offensive formations, their offensive plays, and things like that. And it's a group effort. Everybody's involved in it. The entire staff gets together, and everybody has a specific job in which they are accomplishing.
And there you have why high school football coaches work 14-hour days during the course of the season, because of all that stuff that you don't see behind the scenes. Coach will look forward to it this coming Thursday night. 6:30 is the pregame show on 92.1 Hank FM. The kickoff is at 7 o'clock. Coach, thanks so much for the time.
All right, thank you.
All right, on the second segment here, we're going to have the present and the future at the quarterback position for the Aledo Bearcats. That's going to be senior Hauss Hejny and sophomore Gavin Beard, rather. Come right back here for the second segment of the KTFW High School Coaches podcast show right after this timeout. On this 1st and 10, high snap, throws it out to Daniels, who catches it outside the numbers, breaks a tackle, 40, 30, 15, 10, 5, and a touchdown for the Aledo Bearcats. And that was the touchdown pass that our guest sitting to my far left, Gavin Beard, threw to Hawk Daniels, covered 46 yards on that. First time you've heard that, I bet. Right, Gavin?
Yes, sir.
All right, there you go. All right, so let's talk here in our second segment, of course, and we are brought to you by H5 Sports Barn. H5 Sports Barn and iPhysio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training. H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. Our second segment always begins with the Aledo alumni update. Cody Bradford, world champion for the Texas Rangers, the left-hander in this postseason for the Rangers. 5 appearances, a 1-0 record, a 1.17 ERA. He pitched 7 2/3 innings, 5 strikeouts, and no walks. So congratulations to Cody and his dynamic performance for the Rangers, making their epic World Series run, the first one ever in franchise history. And then for Jason McClellan, the former running back who's now at Alabama, 14 carries, 63 yards, and a touchdown against LSU, and Alabama's 42-28 victory this past Saturday night as the Crimson Tide gained control of the SEC West. For McClellan, he is the leading rusher for the Crimson Tide with 632 yards. He's also caught passes for 114 yards in his
journey there with the Crimson Tide. He's been gone a long time, too. It's hard to believe he's been gone that long. But now we're joined by the present and the future of the quarterbacking situation here at Aledo High School. To my immediate left is the guy making his third appearance. That's Hauss Hejny. And to my far left is sophomore Gavin Beard. Guys, welcome.
Thank you.
All right, so let's talk a little bit, Hauss, about, of course, you did not appear last week against Brewer. But, you know, as I've gone through this, you've gone through some dings here and there throughout this. I want to ask you about just the mental challenge of going through a season when you do get this. You get a strain here, you get a ding here, that sort of thing, and just kind of holding up. What's kind of the mental thing that you have to approach to get through a week knowing that you're not going to play and just kind of dealing with frustration, things like that?
You know, injuries are obviously a part of the game of football. You know, it's a physical sport and, you know, a physical demanding sport. So, you know, you just have to take it head on. And, a friend of mine showed me a video that, you know, when you got obstacles that come in your way, you just got to look at it as a good thing and, figure out a way to, you know, come out of that injury, you know, better than what you were. So, you know, that, of course, I want to be on the football field, you know, every day that I can because it's a game that I love. But at the end of the day, everything happens for a reason. So, you know, sitting there, you know, pouting about it doesn't do you any good, doesn't do your team any good. So how can you just better yourself and get back as quickly to your team as possible? So it's been fine, of course. You know, last week, Gavin Beard, as a young sophomore, got to start in his first varsity game. And, you know, those reps when you're that young are critical for him. So as a starter, and, you know, I was hurt that week, you know, I was just mentoring him, you know, watching him. And it was fun to watch and, you know, see him develop as a quarterback. And, yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about this. And I'm sure you were eager to come back on the field because you had a lot of frustrations against Denton Ryan 2 weeks prior there. But I want to ask you about this because, you know, football is about adversity. That's kind of a microcosm of life, as coaches like to talk about. For you, dealing with what you dealt with in that game, even though you came up with the big touchdown run at the end, what do you learn from a game like that, just as a competitor, and how you say, okay, I get it, and this is how I have to move forward with that?
You know, when you go through a game like that, you have to move on to the next play, and you can't think about, you know, I mean, I threw 2 picks that game. It wasn't my best game, and I take ownership of that. And, you know, like I said, it wasn't my best game, but, you know, it's how you move forward. You can't let it, you know, you can't let the adversity take advantage of you, I guess I would say. And, you know, you just got to take it head on and, you know, move forward. And, you know, to score that game-winning drive, I just had to have trust in, you know, Coach Williams' play call and, you know, execute it. And that's what we did that last drive. We made a huge third down conversion that led to me, you know, scoring on that game-winning drive. And, you know, it's good for the whole team, too, as well. You know, our whole team faced adversity that game. You know, Our defense had to make a lot of huge stops because, you know, the offense wasn't putting enough points on the board. And, you know, as an offensive unit, you know, it allowed us to dig in and, you know, find out who we were. So
yeah, you all had not been pushed pretty much since the Denton-Geyer game when that one had 8 lead changes in it, and then you all, of course, won on the field goal at the gun. So maybe a game like this is probably the best thing that could have happened for you, or at least you'd like to think so.
Oh, especially going into playoffs, you know, going, you know, 7 or 8 weeks without being pushed. You know, going into playoffs, you get to it could be round 1. Rounds 1 through 5 are going to be, you know, 1-score games possibly. So that's just battle testing us and, you know, making our team, you know, more battle tested, I guess you would say. So we're ready for those big time moments when, hey, it's 3rd and 14. How do we respond? Hey, it's 4th and 1 for our defense. How do you get a stop right there? So those games are big time, and then they pay off when you get further down the road in playoffs.
And these are the types of games, too, where it's not so much physical, where it's the mental challenge of playing the game, too. Because you can have all the abilities that you want, but then it comes down to believing that you can do it and having the psyche to handle it, too, I would suspect.
Yeah, and that goes back to team chemistry. You know, there's teams out there that probably have more talent than us, but, you know, they don't go through the offseason that we go through. They don't have that team bond that we go. They don't have that trust in each other that we have. And, you know, there's a lot of teams with individuals out there. And I think the difference for our team is we got a team that has trust in each other first of all. And, you know, we're willing to, you know, put our bodies on the line for each other and for our team and for our families that watch and pour into us, that are watching in the stands, for our coaches that, you know, work 12-hour days that are up at the field house from, you know, 6 to 6 o'clock in the afternoon, you know, making sure that we have a good chance of winning a football game. So you just do it to the people, do it for the people that pour into you, and that's what a lot of the players on our team do. Is, you know, they're doing it for something bigger than themselves. And you know, I'll mention this, is doing it for the glory of God. I feel like a lot of guys on our team, you know, know that their purpose is, bigger than themselves and bigger than, self-glorification, but you're doing it for the glory of God. And, I've spread that word throughout our team that don't forget, who you are as an individual. And, yeah.
As we bring in Gavin here, okay, so Gavin, of course, this has been wide-eyed for you, just being his backup there. What's just take me through this journey this year, because you immediately got thrown into the fire, I think in the second quarter against Parish Episcopal in the season opener, and then you've been able to get snaps a quarter here, half there, that sort of thing. What's this experience been like for you, just start to where we are now?
It's been awesome, just learning behind Hauss and just being able to go out there and play. And it was awesome against Brewer, because that was actually like meaningful snaps, and going with the ones especially, like it was just really important football, I feel like, and everything like going in like before Brewer, it was just preparing me for that game, and I knew I was going to have to step up at some point this year, and that was just God's way of throwing that in there. So yes, sir.
Okay, so let's just talk a little bit about just going through that game itself against Brewer. Because you guys obviously start quickly with the touchdown, then you kind of bog down in the second, later the part of the first quarter, and then the second quarter. But the way that you all responded in the third quarter, 3 perfect drives, you obviously throw your first touchdown pass at the varsity level. What was that like for you to just kind of go through those lulls and then come back and play the way you did in the third quarter?
Yeah, we definitely didn't come out hot. Coach Jones mentioned it, I think, earlier. We didn't play our brand of football the first half, and we had to go back to the drawing board and come out the second half, and we executed, and we played well the second half and put a good score at the end of the game on the scoreboard. But yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about because the speed of the varsity game. Now, you got a couple of snaps last year.
I did, yes.
Yeah, and I think it was against Brewer last year. Maybe it was the season. Maybe it was the second to the last game. I know.
The Colony, you got.
Yeah,
the Colony was the Colony. You got snaps in that one. Okay, so let's just. But the speed of the game now, because of the fact that you face it, I would suspect that facing Brewer on Friday didn't face you from start to finish. I mean, you had seen enough of it during the course of a season to kind of say, I get the speed of the game. Just take me through that a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely different than like JV. I mean, you got to play with anticipation and especially chemistry is a big deal with your guys, because like you can't just throw it up anymore. You got to play smart, make the right reads, and it's going to bite you in the butt if you don't do the right things.
Okay, and it seemed like to me, though, in this game against Brewer, where they were anticipating snap counts. I mean, they were rushing a ton of guys. They were trying to put more hats on your hats to try and throw you off a little bit. When did you kind of identify that, and then what adjustments did you all make against that?
They were dropping, they were taking away the deep ball, and they were blitzing a lot on like third down. So we would just try to take advantage of the flats underneath and given what the defense gave us.
Now, your touchdown pass to Hawk Daniels, very reminiscent to Hauss's opening play of the season when he swung it out to Ray Gilroy that went for 75. Same play? Or was it or a little bit of a variation?
Yeah. It was similar. The Rays was out of the backfield. Hawks was at slot receiver.
Okay.
But, same thing.
Same thing. You get a block downfield. I mean, this is the value of why your receivers are asked to block downfield, because you never know if something can get sprung.
Oh, it can be the difference in a game. If it's, 3rd and 12 and you throw a swing pass and your outside receiver whiffs on a block in the corner,
For sure, yeah.
It's important.
So Gavin, as you're watching Hawk break this down the sideline thinking, he's going to score, this is going to be my first varsity touchdown, what's going through your mind?
I was really excited, but it's happened a couple before. It's happened, like I was supposed to score a couple times earlier in the season, but I got called back. But, I was just happy there was no penalties, and it's confirmed.
All right, so just going through this offseason, because I'm going to take you back to spring football and working with Hauss and just getting to know each other and knowing the understanding, just the nuances of playing the position at the varsity level. What was that chemistry like, developing that with him, and just the relationship of what is it going to take to play at the varsity level and be the heir apparent, the starting quarterback at Aledo?
Yeah, you said spring, right?
Yeah, spring ball. Yeah, just starting to go through that off season with him and that sort of thing.
Yeah, just being intuitive about everything we're doing, taking intention in what every single pass and every single thing. We can't just slack off in practice, and being decisive with our reads and everything, being specific about what we're doing, and
Okay, and you get to be the old man here. I mean,
I'll say this about Gavin. He's a young sophomore quarterback, and he's a backup on varsity. It can be really easy to slack off and not to take advantage of the backup reps that you get. at the end of the day, you're probably not going to see the field as much as the starter does, which, I mean, that's what it's supposed to be like. I mean, unless when you're playing, easy teams, then he's going to get in the second half. But, he's taking advantage. He's preparing himself for when he is the starter for the next 2 years, because the snaps that he's doing right now are preparing him for the next 2 years. And he's gone about his business really well. And in practice, he's trying to better himself and make sure he's ready for when his number does get called. And his number did get called in Brewer, and he did his job and played well in the Brewer game. So, props to Gavin, because like I said, he's young and it's easy to slack off and kind of not. I don't know. Just go through. He's not going through the motions. He's taking advantage of every opportunity he gets.
But you get to play mentor here and kind of just guide him along here as he's learning this on the fly, so to speak. From basically when the off season started in late December, who are we kidding? It's January 1st when it gets started. But anyway, but even so, as you're going through those workouts. And then when spring ball starts in May, I would have to think that you kind of had you had the opportunity to take him under your wing and kind of say, this is how it's done.
For sure.
What was that like for you to kind of say, I get to put my arm around your shoulder and say, this, and this?
I'm not much of a vocal leader when it comes to when I'm out on the football field. I like to lead by my actions, and so I'm hoping that's kind of rubbed off on him a little bit, just going through PC this summer and then obviously last spring. But, he's going to have the keys to the team for the next 2 years, and I want to make sure the team's in good hands. So, I care about, what I'm representing when I'm around him and what I'm doing off the field too. So, I hope he just learns from, my leadership skills that, I think I got pretty good leadership skills when it comes to, leading a football team. But, I think he'll be ready to go for when his time comes.
What has it meant for you to just kind of watch him go day in and day out running a varsity football program?
It's been awesome. I'd rather play, but I like being behind Hauss, especially because just how good he is and how intentional he is with everything that he does off and on the field. But yeah.
Okay, but I would imagine too that this was kind of been like an experience, you like soaking everything up like a sponge, for sure. I mean, just how do you run meetings? How you just go through just your day-to-day work and just how you interact with teammates in the locker room. I mean, those things you ever pick up on, or just those little nuances?
He's a leader in the locker room, and just the way he carries himself. I just want to take after him when I step into that role next coming years.
So playing 3 quarters, because obviously Lincoln Tubbs played the 4th quarter against Brewer. Number 88, by the way. How fun was that we got to see number 88 playing the backup quarterback at Brewer on Friday. But anyway, just having those snaps and just going through a game like that, heaven forbid whatever happens in the playoffs, but the fact that you've had all that, if your number's called, what will that experience against Brewer mean for you if indeed they need you?
Yeah, it'll definitely it's giving me a lot more confidence going into future games. I pray that Hauss doesn't get hurt, but if my number is called again, then I'll have more confidence, because there was definitely nerves going into Brewer, but I got my groove. It was fine.
Maybe that first snap, or maybe the first time you get hit or something like that, or whatever the case may be, kind of gets that out of you and say, okay, it's a football game, we got to play.
Pop back right up and get ready to go again, yeah.
Okay, so let's just talk a little bit about Hauss, about the Wolves from Shoemaker High School. Very explosive on offense, very good defensive team. What stands out about you as you've been working on preparing for this game?
They got really talented DBs. Coach Jones mentioned they're very fast, and that's going to be a task to attack. But and they got linebackers that are very smart, and they like to drop back in the coverage, and they cover passing lanes really well, and they're very skilled and very smart. And they got a really good nose tackle who's going to give us problems, but we'll game plan, cover him up. But we just got to play smart football and play our brand of football that we know how to play. And, we just got to go out there and execute, and I think we'll be just fine. But, we got to take it day by day and, take advantage of this. We got one practice tomorrow and then a walkthrough on Wednesday. So these next few snaps that we got tomorrow are going to be really crucial for our preparation for them. But like you said, they're very good, and, we just got to go play our brand of football, and we'll be just fine.
It doesn't matter if it's regular season or even in the postseason, but when you do have a shorter week, how does that change the preparation just for getting ready for a game?
I mean, like I said, you got 2 days, so, every snap that you have in practice is crucial, because, you're not going to have many chances to, redo that rep because you don't got 3 days of practice. That 3 day, that third day of practice makes a difference, because you can clean things up, but, tomorrow things got to be cleaned up, and we got to get in our groove, because Wednesday is our walkthrough.
Can you feel the sense of urgency again? I mean, it's obvious. I mean, this program has won 11 state championships, the most in Texas high school football history. But but can you feel the urgency because once the clock ended at zeros at Brewer last week, then it's like, okay, game on, and this is the push.
There's definitely a sense of urgency. Urgency and just excitedness, because this, I mean, I'm going back to last year, but this is the most fun time of playing football. You know, playoff football, I mean, last year was just an amazing time. I'm looking forward to that this year because, you know, just that atmosphere, just not knowing what's going to come next. You know, your season's on the line. You got the crowd yelling. You know, you got your teammates hyped up, wondering what's going to happen. So, you know, there's a sense of urgency knowing that, you know, we want to go 6-0 these next couple weeks and, you know, make it to the state championship. But, you know, the importance is just taking it day by day, not looking too far into the future, and, you know, focus on your opponent that week and, you know, controlling what you can control, which is, you know, coming in every day and, you know, focusing on what you got to do to be the best football player. And especially me being a senior and all the other seniors is you can't leave any regrets on the table. You got to leave no doubt. And, you know, that was my message this week and that I sent out to the guys. We have to leave no doubt and, you know, leave no regrets that, man, I should have strained a little bit more to make that tackle or that catch. You know, I should have studied more film, you know, on this team, and I could have made that play. I could have recognized this coverage. I could have recognized this offensive play that they're running. And so, you know, we're going to leave no doubt these next couple weeks.
All right. And then for Gavin, for you, because the fact that this is your first time to go through something like this. I mean, you were on the sidelines last year going through the journey, but this is different because you're involved in this week-to-week preparation. What's it?
Sure.
How can you feel that urgency? Can you feel that intensity?
Yeah, it's definitely exciting, and urgency is there for sure. We just want to go out and win every game because, yeah, like you said, our season is on the line every week. So just a sense of urgency and a sense of we got to prepare better like we haven't before. And yes, sir.
All right. Guys, always appreciated. To my immediately left is the TCU commit and the senior. That is Hauss Hejny. Then to my far left, he is the future starting quarterback for the Aledo Bearcats. That is Gavin Beard. Folks, let them know that you're happy to have him with you today. And then in our third segment, our special third segment, we're going to have everybody from the cross-country teams up here in just a little bit. That's going to be head coach Mike Pinkerton and then selected members from the cross-country teams. In a couple of minutes coming up right next, you're listening to the Hank FM Coaches podcast show as here for the Aledo ISD, and it's here at Jake's on 1187. We're coming right back after a couple minutes. And we're back for our special third segment of the Aledo Coaches podcast show here on Hank FM. This reminder that it is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn. H5 Sports Barn and Knife Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training. H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. Well, it shows you I've been pretty old in doing these Aledo games because the man sitting to my left here is the head cross-country coach, Mike Pinkerton. We're celebrating the cross-country teams who had an outstanding performance down in Round Rock at the state meet. But Mike Pinkerton and I go back to when Mike was coaching the girls basketball team, so that shows you that we're both old, right, Mike?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, there you go. But anyway, let's just talk about this because Mike moved over to running the cross-country team 7 seasons ago. And this is all he's had in his resume. State qualifier teams on the girls' side, 2022, 2023. Then he had individual performances, individual runners in 2017 and 2019. That was Gracie Morris, who finished third in 2017 and then second in 2019. On the boys' side, he had teams qualify in 2019, 2021, and then, of course, this year. Individually, he had Graydon Morris, the individual champion from 2017, 2018, and 2019, and then Isaac Hernandez finished 25th in 2020. Now, this team, this year, pretty historic in its own right. The girls one meets at Birdville Cowtown College, the Texas A&M Invitational. Then they won the District 5-5A championship. One would is believed the first Region 1 championship out at May Simmons Park in Lubbock. And then the boys won the Cowtown Challenge as well as the District 5-5A championship. That's it. That's all your teams have done.
That's it.
That's it. First of all, congratulations, Mike, on an outstanding season. What was this season like to go through getting these runners ready? Because this is such a want-to sport. You either want to run or you don't. So
Very true.
So what's that been like, just getting this program to this point and then seeing both these young men and these young women have the kind of season that they had?
It's been fantastic. First and foremost, these student athletes work hard. They really work hard. And what I've seen over time is the work ethic that they've instilled in themselves kind of bleeds over to the rest of the team. So everybody is working hard.
You know, and these workouts, I think a lot of people don't know about how these workouts get started in August. When it's hot, and they have to run like starting at 5 a.m. in the morning, maybe 6, and that's the latter part of the time when they get started running. But that commitment there on that. So just for those who don't follow cross country on a day in and day out basis, how do you structure the workouts? And then how do they kind of do it individually themselves? Because they know what they have to put in each week mileage-wise.
Right, correct. We have structured practices, team practices, pretty much 5 days a week if we don't have a meet on a certain day. But then they have to get some extra mileage in on their own so that we hit a mileage goal each week.
And so for you, did you think this kind of season for both sides was capable? Both of them getting to the state meet. The girls obviously had this tremendous season. They finished, and I kind of buried the lead. They were the state runners-up at the 5A state meet down in Round Rock. But did you think that this kind of season was possible because of who you had returning, who you had coming into the program?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Based on the runners we had coming back and what I knew about the runners that were coming in, I knew we could have a very exceptional season, both guys and girls.
Talent-wise, is it more or less talent, or is it more about just training and intensity and focus, or what do you think it really comes down to, putting together a cross-country team that's going to be, and it's not just a one-year thing, it kind of has to be a program unto itself?
Very true, yes. I think it's a combination of the two. You've got some that have the talent, you know, but talent does you no good if you don't work. And then you've got the kids who might not be as talented, but they work, you know, and we're fortunate we've got a combination of both.
And as far as, you know, the way that this team put together this season, was there any meet this year that kind of reaffirmed what your hopes were for this? Was it Bergville? Was it the A&M Invitational? Heck, was it even the 5A meet? Or what was it that maybe said, you know, I was right. I think we've got a shot to really do something special this year?
I think it really started early at the South Lake Carroll meet. We ran, of course, South Lake Carroll is notorious for getting some really good times. So, you know, all the teams go there to get really good times. We got some really exceptional times. And knowing that, you know, the South Lake course is easier than a lot of the other courses, you know, it was a matter of time and seeing how we did at some of the other courses, but the times didn't drop off that much. You know, and that's what I told the guys and girls. We were kind of flying under the radar until that South Lake Carroll meet, and then all of a sudden they're getting interviewed by Mile Split, and we're not a secret anymore. You know.
And then on the boys' side, same thing. Was it the Cowtown Challenge? Was it the district meet? Or when did you kind of think we got a shot here with this group to get them down to Round Rock?
Again, I think it was the South Lake Carroll meet. At the same time.
So let's talk about these ladies individually. So at the state meet, Micah Neil finished 7th with a time of 18 minutes and 14 seconds. Molly Garrison was 12th, 18 minutes, 24 seconds. Madison Larson, 22nd, 18 minutes, 46 seconds. Sofia Brandenburg and Mykel Murry, 48th and 49th, respectively, each running 19 minutes, 25 seconds. There might have been a 10th in there that kind of separated them with those two. On the boys' side, as again, they finished 10th, Jack Fink was 20th overall with a time of 15 minutes and 55 seconds. Leighton Ibarra, I believe that's how you pronounce it. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
That's correct.
Okay, 46 overall with a time of 16 minutes and 22 seconds. Dominic Barrera, 107th, 17 minutes and 11 seconds. Anderson Smith, 17 minutes and 13 seconds. He was 110th. And then Luke Schabel, 112th, 17 minutes and 20 seconds. I think the one thing that stands out here, for those who don't know scoring for cross country, is that you've got to get these runners bunched together. They've got to be really close, because the closer they're together, the smaller score you get.
That's correct. That's correct.
And so the way that they ran together, just kind of, you don't want to say that it's herd running, but at the same time, they kind of have to run like a herd. In that is it them challenging each other out there on the course? Is it them just kind of knowing each other's, all their tendencies to know, I can catch up with her at this marker, or I can pass her here, but I know she can catch up with me here. You know, those types of things that fall into it.
Well, in practice, I'm sure they're tired of hearing me yell, stay together, you know. And when it came to the meets, we always have, you know, one runner that'll get out there and take the lead for us respectively. And then it's a matter of the other ones trying to stay up as best they can, you know, with that runner. had the fourth and fifth runners for the girls team were absolutely phenomenal. Came across the finish line in less than a second's time difference. You know, and so that's really what it takes.
Yeah, it really comes down to when you win a meet, it's got to come down to your fourth and fifth runners. You can have the top three runners all you want, but it's going to come down to that depth with that fourth and fifth spot.
Correct.
And so, all right, so anything that you could say about what this group, what you think this group is capable, because now you transition into the track season where they're going to be in the 1600s, 800s, and the 3200s. So what's kind of their goal now, just what they're working on in this offseason? Because it's got to start pretty soon. I mean, we just stopped running on Friday, but that doesn't mean that you got to stop. But as you transition to track, how do those two kind of marry to each other so that you can still continue to maintain that high performance level at the cross-country side of things?
Number one is rest. Mm-hmm. We've got to take some rest. It's been a long time since August the 1st. So they need to take some rest, and when we get back and gear things up again, we're going to start in the same kind of direction that we started in cross-country, the same kind of lifts in the weight room, things like that, things that the muscles, the body is accustomed to. And the changes will take place really on the track, the difference in distance and the difference in speed and things like that.
All right, Mike, listen, tremendous season. Congratulations on everything. I'm so happy for you guys to have that. It's fun to bring a team down there, but it's even more fun when you get to bring them both down there.
Yes, it is.
It's a gratifying feeling, I would think.
Very much so.
All right.
Yes.
Now, because several of these runners are with us, we're going to bring the ladies up first. So we're going to have Micah Neil and Sofia Brandenburg, and I think Mykel Murry will be with us here. So, Mike, thanks so much for this. We're going to bring the ladies up here. Micah and Sofia, if you would come up here and join us. And so... All right, so we'll start with Micah Neil and Sofia Brandenburg. And first of all, Micah, congratulations to you finishing 7th. Sofia, congratulations to you finishing 40th. How exciting was this for you guys to get back to compete at the state meet in Round Rock? Just what was the excitement like?
Together again, we used to compete together when we were younger, and just to come back and compete together again, it's been a great blessing.
Okay, then for you, Sofia, let's talk a little bit about just the key of you all running together and staying together, like Coach Pinkerton has talked about. Can you talk about, from your side of things, as runners, how valuable that is during the course of a season, what that means winning meets and being competitive?
So, I mean, it's definitely important to train together, and we were out there in the early mornings, throughout the whole season, just together. And so running at practice really just translates into the race, and just trying to stay as close to each other as possible, because obviously the closer you are together, the lower that score is going to be, and the closer we can be to getting a good placing.
Now, if you all had heard this, I mentioned to Coach Pinkerton, running is a want-to sport. You either want to do it or you don't. So I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to ask you this too, when you come up here, Mykel, is what makes you want to do it?
I like.
And putting her on the spot, but that's okay.
I mean, to be able to compete, it's just it's been one of my dreams since I was young. So, I mean, I've always wanted to be at the top, be one of those Olympians, and to just be like them. And that's kept me going. Okay, and then for you, Sofia, just talk about what you want to just get up at 5 in the morning, run, put all those miles in a week. What's the desire to do that day in and day out?
I think ultimately the desire is just the end prize, just seeing it all come together. And so even though all those early mornings are tough and all, just remembering what our goal is and what we have our eyes on is just it makes waking up easier in the morning, knowing that you have a whole team and you're running for them and you're competing for them for a goal of just getting to the top.
The culture is important.
It is. We're like a family. We've grown up together. We've been running together since we were little. So winning district championships here for Aledo Cross Country, and both for the boys and girls, is not something that has, it happens a lot. But winning that regional championship, which again we believe is the first time that's ever happened, when you guys won that out in Lubbock, can you take me through the emotions when you all found out we just won this thing? And I'll start with you, Micah.
I mean, we kind of knew it was coming, but putting in that work I mean, it made us feel even better about winning because we know we like worked hard for this and we deserved it.
History, but I mean it's history too. I mean you guys will be forever remembered as the first regional championship team in Aledo history. Do you think about that? I mean, do you think about that, Sofia? I mean, what you all accomplished on that.
I just think it's crazy to think about how, like, especially last year finishing 10th at the state meet and then coming together this year to not only win regionals but then get second at state. It was a big deal for all of us, and we knew it was coming, like Micah said, because we had been putting in the work. We saw what we were doing at practice and the times that were just dropping throughout the season, so it was just cool to see it all come together.
And then, Michael, I'll ask you one question, then I'll let you go so we can bring up Michael here, and that is just your leadership and just being a leader for this group. What does that mean? Because you've been usually the first runner for this team. And of course, you individual champion in the regional meet. But when you have to set a tone, or when you kind of have to set the tempo for your team, what things do you feel like you have to impress upon your teammates so that the cohesiveness can still be there?
I need to keep up the pace. I know everybody's we're all like in a tight pack, so just like push the pace so we can all go faster, and which will increase our placing in state and future meets.
All right. Listen, Micah, thanks for you. And then we'll have Michael come up here and join us. And Sofia, I want to ask you a little bit about just going down to Round Rock. And I'll ask Mykel Murry this here in just a few moments. But just going down to Round Rock, and you guys knew the challenge that Lucas Lovejoy was going to have down there. But I wanted to ask you just a little bit about what your expectations were, what your strategy was at Old Settlers Park in Round Rock, and what you guys thought you were capable of doing down there. Just take us through the whole morning down there on Friday.
So we throughout this whole season, we knew that Lovejoy they're obviously really strong competitors. And we knew that at state, we just, like we've been saying, we've had to run as close together as possible in order to keep that score down. And we know, obviously this year we got second, but going forward we have big goals to catch them, and I think we can if we just continue to work hard.
Did you all think that you could catch them this year, or did you feel like or was the goal we can get top three? What was kind of the expectation?
I think this year we took it as a stepping stone to ultimately just catch them in the next 2 years.
All right, and then we're joined by Mykel Murry. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Okay, so Michael, if you'll put your mic just a little bit closer to your mouth here, and then, okay, so I want to ask you a little bit about just being a part of this cross-country team here and just going down to state and what your expectations were and just competing. What was that like for you just mentally as you're going through the race itself on Friday?
Mentally, I was just trying to lead and stay close to my teammates as much as possible, because I know the closer we were together, we would drop our points and it would make us have a higher ranking going up into getting second at state. But that was basically my mindset.
Okay, and then I'm not going to let you get away with this because I asked each of them what your why was. And so what makes you want to do this? I mean, because this is a sport where it's all individual, it's all mental. You have to have the motivation to do it day after day. So for you, just take us through what is your want to do this?
I've always wanted to make it big, get to the Olympics and actually be a part of that big organization, and that makes me want to get up every morning and work hard. In what we did this season, it just makes that journey just one step closer to that big goal.
Okay, so for you all have run on different types of surfaces this year. The tracks could be fast, could be dry, or you've run through marshy stuff or whatever, and it's been unfriendly, and so your times will be impacted by that. So Michael, I'm going to ask you, when you get to different types of courses, whatever it's like running on them, what's kind of the adjustment you have to make?
On the course, if it was hills and stuff like that, and be you have to drive harder, you have to go faster, you have to watch your footing, just different types of stuff to prepare the day before.
And then for you, Sofia?
I feel like a lot of people think it's just you get out there and you run, but obviously the course does affect your performance, so it's more technical than you think, because you just have to remember getting up the hills, pick up your knees, and just obviously when we're on a flat course, we're all gonna fly, so you just have to keep up, and it's each course is different, and we obviously went into those races just knowing what we had to do differently to perform well.
Well, we talked about this, and I'm going to ask Jack Fink and Luke Schabel here when they come up here in just a few moments, but I'm going to ask you about, the pace that you all have to individually set throughout the course of a race, and that is you can start slow, but then they talk about that kick at the end. So when for you personally, and I'll start with you, Mykel, about when for you do you feel like when you get toward the end, like this is when I got to push at the end? Take me through that.
I would say like maintaining a pace for the first 2.5 miles, and then the last 800 is okay, you really have to go to finish and have a good hard kick at the end, but also making sure that you have enough at the end too.
And how do you know that? I guess is that just knowing your body itself and what it can withstand?
I think it's just with trust. I've worked so hard the whole season. I just have to trust that I'll have enough at the end and just give it my all and just let whatever happens, happens.
And then for you, Sofia.
I mean, obviously we go out the beginning of the race is fast because you don't want to get caught in the back. Obviously the goal is to win. And then settle into a pace like Mykel said, and she got it right on. She hit the nail. The last 800, you start picking it up, and then I would say last 250 is when you're just it's everything you have left. You're not saving anything for, it's everything you have.
I've seen it, I've covered enough cross-country meets in my lifetime when I've seen those facial expressions where it looks like it's like death warmed over a little bit. You're about to pass out there. But when you pass, I have to think that that's really something as well. That's something extraordinary. Just like finishing a race, but then the satisfaction of that. What does that mean to you? Just when you cross. Wherever you finish, you finish. But when you cross a finish line, what does that mean to you when you finish a race?
Whenever I finish, it's just a relief. It was over. But also knowing that I gave it my all, and that's all that matters.
All right, and then for you, Sofia?
I mean, like Mykel said, just finishing the race, knowing that you gave it your all, it's rewarding. So that's obviously the goal. Just get to the finish line, give it everything you have, and if you didn't do that one race, then that's what you work on the next.
All right, ladies, thank you so much. Now we're going to bring up Jack Fink and Luke Schabel here as they were part of the team that finished 10th overall in the state meet. Nice job, ladies. Thank you. And thank you to Micah Neil for joining us, too, for a few moments. Thank you, Micah, and congratulations on your season. Okay, couple things too that was just brought to my attention, that Micah's granddad was the head men's basketball coach when Jim Ann was there. That was only 15 years ago, right, Jim Ann? Oh, okay, all right. 20 years. And her mom was Hauss's first babysitter too, so there you go. And then her dad, Niall, played basketball at TCU and won a world championship in Japan playing basketball there. So just a couple things on that. Okay, now we're joined by the boys. Jack Fink is to my far left, and then Luke Schabel. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Luke. Is that correct?
Schabel.
Schabel, okay, thank you. Okay, that's why I ask here, but we're going live. But again, you guys finished 10th. Congratulations on your season. Just talk about this, Jack. Let's talk about just finishing 10th and what the goals were for this team this year.
Yeah, so the team, we were practicing really hard all season. We knew that we had to work hard and work together, not mess around, get out there and work hard and do our best.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you to put your mic a little bit closer to you, and I'm going to ask you to do the same thing here on Luke. Let's talk a little bit about as far as just when you felt like this year, when you guys felt like you had a shot to have a remarkable season, was there any point during the season when you felt like this can be a really special year for us?
I honestly felt that way last track season. I looked around pretty much we're all coming back. Why not?
Okay, so, I was talking to Coach Pinkerton about this, where he felt like when you all competed in the South Lake Carroll meet, that's when you kind of hit the stage and a lot of people around the state took notice of you. Well, I'm going to ask you about this, Jack, first, about just the fact that what did you get out of that meet?
So what I got out of that meet was that I can push really hard in the race. I can go out really, really hard and keep pushing. And even though during the race my chest started really, really hurting, but I know that even though I was hurting and I was sore, that I could push through it and that I could achieve my best potential during the race. and that all I had to do was work really hard.
Okay, and then for you, Luke, what do you remember about that South Lake Carroll meet and what you felt like was the point where maybe you guys came of age or got onto the map as a team to be reckoned with this year?
I mean, we kind of just saw that when we really run hard, when we feel like we can't run faster, what we're running is just reckless. And then you finish the race with that. You're like, you look around, you're like, oh, we can do this. And then after that race, we were slotted 4th in the region, which qualifies for state. And we're like, oh, this is completely doable.
Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to ask you too about the Region 1 meet out there at May Simmons Park in Lubbock.
Yeah.
You guys get 4th. It was a tight finish there too. And I wanted to ask you about just being on pins and needles when they're counting the points and that sort of stuff. I mean, you can kind of tell, I think we're in, but then you always kind of have to wait. So what was that moment like when you finished and then you're waiting for the points to be counted?
Well, at first I was really nervous because I ended up getting 10th overall for the stuff without the people that also went as teams. And so I knew that both me and one of my teammates, Leighton, had qualified for state individually. But then I also didn't know if that was enough to push us over the edge for the team as, the group, as well to go to state. And it was nerve-wracking, and I was hoping and praying. I was getting nervous. I was like, oh, maybe. And then after a while, we found out that, yes, we did qualify.
Okay, then for you, what were those moments like between end of the race and finding out you all had qualified for state?
I mean, I kind of just put it out of my head. Like, I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to get my hopes up. But once they said we got 4th, I was like, woo-hoo-hoo.
Okay, so let's just talk about the Old Settlers Park. It's a great track. I mean, it's got its shares of hills. It's got its share of flat spots. And so let's talk about just the strategy of going through that course and what it was like for you. I'm going to start with you, Luke, on this and just just going through that. And so what was the important thing for you about the stretches of just having to navigate through that course?
You really got to focus. You hit 3 main hills, and those will make or break your race. Like, one's right off the start. If you don't get up that hill, you're going to be in the back, and you have to weave. And then there's on the second lap, there's 2 that you hit, same one twice. And if you don't get up that hill, you'll put yourself in a bad position in the start, and then towards the end of the race, if you fall back, it's really hard to get back up there with the rest of the pack.
And then for you, Jack.
So regarding regionals at the race, like Luke said, the hill is right off at the start, and me personally, I did not get up the hill as fast as I should have, and I was in a bad placement, but I knew that I needed to get up and weave through the people and work and use the flat spots in the course and the downhills to eventually gain my spot and just push through the hills and work hard.
Finishing 10th, what did that mean to you guys? We'll start with you, Jack.
It was a great accomplishment. I was really excited. I was pretty happy with my performance, and I knew that the season had paid off the season's work. Getting up at 4:40 in the morning and getting to practice at 5:40, and just knew that it did pay off. I worked, and it was really accomplishing.
And then for you?
I mean, we've grown up and we've heard the names like Isaac Hernandez and Grayson Morris and Bryson Boss all the time, but to get 10th and place pretty well at state with just us, it felt big because it's like, man, this is us now. It's not some guy that we just read about. These are my brothers.
And so I asked the ladies this, so now I'm going to ask you guys this. Okay, you just mentioned this too a moment ago, Jack, about getting up at 4:40. The want to do this. I've always, in my reporting career, which is 100 years ago, but I've always been intrigued by the runners, the desire to do it. So what is your want to do this?
My want to is for. Let's see.
None of us have a good answer.
I don't want to do it, but I'm just going to do it anyway. And so,
getting up at 4:40 in the morning it's hard. But I know that throughout the season, if I do it and I have the mental willpower to do it, that it will pay off in the end. It will get me better. It will get me mentally stronger. Overall, it makes me a better person. I do it for my friends and my family and our God. It just really makes me a better person for all of them.
And then for you, Luke, what is your want to?
I mean, God's given me the ability, the desire, and the opportunity to run. And for me, it's using that for His glory, not mine. So that's kind of what I think about is how can I use this platform in this area to glorify God.
Now, Coach Pinkerton talked about the fact that this is the time to rest. So during this time of rest, before you guys, I know you're shrugging your shoulders, saying, "What does that mean exactly?" But that being said, Jack, but what's important though about this time of year before you guys switch over to the track season? Let's start with what you think about.
So currently, I am not resting.
Just finished the season on Friday.
Yeah, well, I have running lane on December 2nd, so I'm actually training until then.
Okay.
But after that, I will be taking a break until around mid-January when we start for track.
December 3rd.
For you, yeah. Not me. I'll be sometime in January. But yeah, just taking the break, resting my legs. My season is very long because I go from in the beginning of the year, I go from school track straight into summer track with club, and then after that, I go straight into Aledo school cross country, and then right after that, I go into club cross country, and then that whole time from mid-January to December, first week of December, it's constant running. I have days off, but there's no like week breaks in between or anything. So my season's very long. I use that month or so break from end of the like second week of December to mid-January, and I just completely rest.
Okay, and then for you, Luke?
I just take a couple weeks off, hit the reset button, and then it's just to get to business in the weight room, get flexible, and then start putting in miles again, just getting ready for track and looking forward to that.
And then you're 16 and 3,200 in track, is that correct for both of you, or what are your events in track?
Yes, I have the 16 and 32.
Okay, and then for you?
800, 16.
Okay, and that's just a preference, or is that what you feel like will get you ready for the cross country season in the fall?
That's what I like running more.
All right, gotcha. Okay, this has been a magnificent evening here. We're celebrating the cross-country teams. Our thanks to Mike Pinkerton, the head coach, and then, of course, the ladies here who finished second. That's Micah Neil, Sofia Brandenburg, and Mykel Murry. And then for Luke Schabel, I got it right, Luke Schabel and Jack Fink. Thank you all for being with us here on the Coaches Show podcast. Again, a tremendous season for the cross-country teams. The girls finished second at state at the 5A meet. The boys finished 10th. Don't forget the Bearcats open up their push for a 12-state championship. That'll be this coming Thursday evening. 7 o'clock is the kickoff. 6:30 is the pregame show on Hank FM. I'm Kevin Lonnquist. Thank you all for joining us. We'll talk to you next week. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show podcast, brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo, with Bearcats head coach Robby Jones and the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist. Please like and subscribe to this podcast and tell a friend. You're also welcome to join us in person every Monday night at 7 from the new Jake's Burgers, 601 FM 1187 in Aledo. And then listen to every Aledo Bearcats game, home and away, live on 92.1 Hank FM, on the free 92.1 Hank FM app, or online at 921hankfm.com. The Aledo Coaches Show podcast is a production of Real Country, Hank FM.